Hello and welcome. We are back for session 34 of my Pillars of Eternity Lorethrough. In last session, we calmed the Chunguilla at the top of the lighthouse, very much like a banshee. And we have been steadily upgrading Bright Hollow here. It's always looked nice upstairs, but now even downstairs is starting to look pretty good. We got the fountain in here. Everything is updated here, and Caed Nua is starting to look great. I think possibly.
Last thing the Dyrwood needs is another foreign colony.
Not only is he just really annoying, but he always seems to interrupt my train of thought. Okay, I forget what I was thinking now. Oh, I also think we are actually ready to take on Lord Gathbin. I don't know for sure, but we have the Knights of the Crucible to back us. We gave him like 10 grand to hire an army. I think that we're as ready as we're ever going to be. But yeah, oh yeah, last time we also recruited Haravius, who I don't like that much, but you know, he's there now. So let's accept that, and it is time to go to Dyrford Village. South curtain wall is completed. Paid my hirelings. And we have a drunkard here. Great. Bad visitor leaves in 3 days, 8 hours. Gaeful the drunkard, a local inebriate, has wandered into the stronghold grounds. He is asking for help with his accumulated debts. I guess I have to go talk to him. Man, we just left there. I guess Dyrford will have to wait. Put up the west curtain wall before we head over there. There's only 2 more things to do after that. We have the Botanical Garden. Oh, 3 more things. The Curio Shop and the Artificer's Hall. Find someone in town who knows about the ruins. What ruins? Maybe those are the ruins in Stormwall Gorge. That would be my guess. Alright, back to Caed Nua. After like a day-long trip, we're headed back there. Yep.
Last thing the Dyrwood needs is...
Alright, it's time to go deal with this drunkard. Alright, Gaeful. Hello, greetings, Lord Piarter. I was hoping to talk to you. I'm in a spot of trouble. The man's breath stinks of ale. Very well, let's hear it. You call your allies together in motion for the petitioner to step forward. Thing is, I've worked up a few debts in Dyrford, and a few other places. More than a few. I haven't got the coin, my lord. I'd pay it off if I could. I was thinking, maybe you'd know of someone looking to hire on or something. I'm willing to work. I know a way you can pay off your debt. I never did learn much of a trade. What did you have in mind? Should we send him to Bella Sage at the Brackenberry Sanitarium? On second thought, perhaps not. Let's see. If I say don't worry, I can settle this. Thank you, my lord. I wasn't sure anyone would care, really. My god, give him 1,200 copper pawns? I'm going to send him to work for Bella Sage. I'll talk to Bella Sage at the Brackenberry Sanitarium. You can help her with her research. Like in tests, you mean? Suppose that ought to pay well, at least, right? Thank you. I'll head out there as soon as I can. Gayful has made me want a beer. Don't know if that was the intended consequence of that or not. Have we been up here? Yeah, I think we have. These are the barracks. Gayful the Drunkard leaves the stronghold.
Last thing.
Once again, freaking Durance. Why is it always him? Almost tempted to just use Haravius instead and be our healer. Ay, ay, ay. Okay. We're in Dyrford now for real. Let's first visit the Temple of Bareth, because it's close by. Cowled dwarf, cowled woman, boar companion. Cooling our heels until Medrith says the job's done. Why does that name Medrith sound familiar? Kelby and Harbinger Bedmar.
Out with you! I already told you what... I'm sorry. I thought you were one of those ruffians.
Those guys outside, I guess. This is Harbinger Bedmar. Poor fellow, that looks painful. Kana frowns, his brows knitting. It's a sorry deed, striking a priest. Oh, the priest has a black eye, I didn't read that. His face is covered in bruises and his lower lip is swollen.
How may I help you?
He gives you something between a smile and a wince. Right, first I want to know what happened to him. What happened to you?
I never saw their faces. Strange hooded men asking about those ruins. Cleoban Relag.
Cleoban Relag.
The brigands who come through here asking about the ruins are looking for a few ancient trinkets. But these people knew the name, and they were in a hurry.
Okay, so it wasn't the people outside of here. Cleoban Relag, a couple things. One, that's where we need to go for Adir's quest. That is where his brother supposedly died. Two, what the priest is saying here is that usually when people are looking for ruins, they just want to know where it is because they want to get some trinkets. But these people knew the name of it, and they knew that they were going there, which suggests, especially since we learned about this in the Temple of Woodica, that the leaden key has been here.
They wanted to know where Cleoban Relag was. I tried to keep it from them, but I couldn't hold out forever. I don't know what they were up to, but it can't be good.
This poor priest. He tried. Aloth looks at you, frowning. It does sound like the leaden key, doesn't it? The old priest nods politely. Is there something else I can help you with? Tell me more about Dyrford. Folks here tend to keep to themselves, as they do in most towns this deep in the Dyrwood. They're suspicious of travelers, but with all the brigands and refugees moving through the area, who can blame them? This is the Temple of Bareth. What can you tell me about Bareth? Bareth is the most universal of all the gods. It oversees portals and cycles of all kinds, even life and death itself. Under Bareth, an ending is merely a passing to another beginning. Bareth has many representations across time, across cultures. Around the Dyrwood, you'll commonly see it depicted as the Pallid Knight or the Usher. The Clanfathans, however, know it as Benwen and Enku and Enku Ebunin. I don't need to ask these questions. They are things that we have read about before. I forget exactly what this means here. Something like life and death and life or something like that. But we have read about the Pallid Knight. We've read about the Usher. Pallid Knight is the more straightforward woman who is a knight who speaks. The Usher is more mysterious, but they are both versions of Bareth, who usher people to the end, into the wheel. Can you tell me where to find the ruins?
The Glanfathan tribe that guards the ruins will kill anyone who trespasses there. And they'll retaliate against us, too, if history is any indication. We've had too many fortune seekers stir up trouble of late. If I'm to tell you, I'll need to know your reason for wanting to go.
A dangerous plot is unfolding there. I've got to stop it.
If that's the case, then we may already have trouble headed our way. I'll have to take you at your word. You'll find Cleoban Relog here. Whatever trouble you find there, please end it quietly and try to stay out of the ruins.
Farewell. Okay, so we got Cleoban Relog on our map. I wonder if it'll actually show here. Yep, it's right up here. Did I look at this already? Flames danced amidst scattered offerings. Keys, coins, and the tiny skulls of birds and mice are mired and melted in hardened wax. Let's talk to Kelby. Talk to Bedmar. No one trusts me with anything more than lighting the candles. Ah. Rite of the Untamed Wild. Rites are a special type of magical scroll. The ritual contained in the scroll allows the reader to grant a specific skill bonus to all of his allies for a long duration. Okay, so this must be, my guess anyway, 2 depictions of Bareth. Looks like we have the Pallid Knight on the left here, and the Usher on the right, who has this urn. Does it say anything about the urn? I don't remember if it said anything about the urn as far as the Usher is concerned. But same statue is over here. We can see the other side of it. So like a snake around the Pallid Knight. Okay. Just some gold-plated NPCs there. Okay, so even up here, it doesn't give us the option to go to Cleoban Relog yet. The music in this game, I don't think is talked about enough. I think it's always very understated, and when it comes in, it can be quite mood-setting and beautiful. So this guard wants to speak with us.
Good day to you.
The guard sighs with relief as he looks at you. What are the odds? Stuck in this backwater only to meet the famed champion of Defiance Bay. Bareth's wheel brings mercy today indeed. His demeanor grows serious. Perhaps you could help. I don't suppose you saw a young elven noblewoman on the road. I'm stuck in this wretched place with the rest of my unit until we find her. So our reputation precedes us here. Who is she? Lady Alis. He bites his lip. She's the daughter of Lord Nestor Heron, and she's gone missing, he sighs. Perhaps you could go speak with Lord Heron at the inn. He'll be grateful for the assistance, and it could be the villagers will open up to you more than they have to us. Okay, so we got a new quest, Blood Legacy. The mill slowly grinds away as at a trough of grain. Oh, sorry, I missed that one. Some villagers in here. Can't remember the last time we had a healthy birth in the village. Damn Gallowayne for monsters like that, and damn the rest of the something too. Damn the rest of the gods too. So this guy, Rumbald, is not happy. A man paces angrily in front of a wrecked animal pen, his sun-weathered face twisted with ire. He's so wrapped up in his fury that he doesn't seem to notice you. Gallowayne's slobbering beast, blazing bloody effigy, thrice damned salty wench, and her soggy... And then he must see us there. So, Gallowayne Slabbering Beast, god of the hunt. The Bloody Effigy, I believe, is Skane, who we haven't read. Both of those are the gods that we haven't read about yet. I think maybe we still need to read about Abaddon too. Thrice Damned Salty Wench in her Sagi. I'm going to guess that's Andra, and I am not going to say what he was about to say about her. What's wrong? That monster stole my pigs, traipsed into the village, tore down my pen, and made off with the whole damned herd. Just left a few little runts, and what am I supposed to do with them? Calm down and tell me what happened. He bites his lip and closes his eyes. His nostrils flare with each quick, angry breath. Wife's always telling me to mind my temper. Just breathe deep and count to 10, he sighs. An ogre moved into the area not long ago. Folk had been seeing glimpses and tracks out in the wood, but it seemed to be staying away from town. Or so we all thought, until it made off with my pigs. Now everyone's afraid it's going to develop a taste for kith if it hasn't already. Did you see the ogre take your pigs? What else would have destroyed my pen and made off with my herd, and at the same time the rest of the village is seeing a 10-foot monster in the forest? I know it's too late to get my pigs back, but it had set my mind at ease to see that thing's head shorn from its neck. In fact, you bring its ugly pate to me and I'll trade you for something that's less used to a farmer like me than to a rowdy-looking sort like yourself. What do you know about the ogre? So he sees that I am from the White That Wins, and he says, I guess they don't have those where you come from, do they? It's the same as any other, I'm sure. A big, ugly son of a bitch with a nasty reputation and an appetite to match. Trigal could tell you more. He claims to have seen it in the wood. You could find him in his shop, right by the broken tower. Need something else? Leave. Okay, so we have a new quest, Farmer's Plate. Got some piglets over here, too. Anything from the south? Nope. Winfrith's Arms and Armory. Some white leaf in there. There's Winfrith. Ripple Sponge. This is a village heavy with drug use.
Good day to you.
A portly, smiling man stands behind a warped wooden counter, polishing a buckler. He looks up. Haven't seen you before. Always glad to see a new face in town. Company's good for business and chatter's good for the soul. That's what I always say. Anyway, what can I do for you? What's been going on in Dyrford? Oh, we're a quiet little town. Not much happens here, especially not since the legacy hit. People realized they couldn't have babies and stopped trying altogether, and that takes a lot of the excitement out of the day-to-day, if you can believe it. Show me what you have for sale. Okay, so we got some unique items to read here. Start from the bottom up. Dwarven enchanters of the White March are said to have mastered... Oh, I'm sorry. This is the Voice of the Mountaintop. Only usable by a chanter. 20% chant area of effect. Ooh, that might actually be really good for Kana. Dwarven enchanters of the White March are said to have mastered projection techniques to such a degree that they can trigger distant avalanches with their voices. Whether or not this specific rumor is true, they are known to chant between peaks and to cross rugged valleys, exchanging messages with their brethren across great distances. This amulet was forged by an ancient order of druids in the White March, precursors to the ethnic knoll of Twin Elms. It was worn and passed down from one watchman to the next, men and women who stood guard atop the high peaks, ready to warn their fellows of approaching armies. It's only 825. I'm gonna buy that. I think that would be great for Kana. Angio's Gambison is the next one. Unique light armor. The renowned Valian acrobat Angio wore this, probably Angio, wore the garment while performing jaw-dropping feats that seemed to defy the law of nature. in the standards of good sense. He would leap and tumble across wires suspended high above the ground, and while there was no evidence that this gambeson actually reduced his intelligence, his concern for safety lessened as his fame and skill grew. He forswore the wearing of safety harnesses and eventually the use of any kind of safety rope, claiming that these tethers limited his ability to perform. While his skill never failed him, one of his tight ropes unfortunately did. He plunged to his death at the foot of Ancensi Fortress. Okay, I was wondering if maybe if you wore this, your intellect went down. Deleterious alacrity of motion. I found out, by the way, that they kept disappearing before when I tried to read these because I was right-clicking instead of left-clicking, so sorry about that. Plus 50% attack speed for 30 seconds. We have a mosquito, a unique rapier. This finely crafted but unassuming rapier was created in the hot and humid forests of the Seathwood. I believe that's where Aloth is from. Its first owner was a minor nobleman named Edwin Grundmave, I think, actually. Known in social circles for his obsequious manner and annoying habit of lingering too long where he was not wanted, Edwin had little use for the blade in the courts he frequented. When Edwin died an unnotable death, the blade passed to a young niece, Caed Grundmave. She found the weapon had characteristics of her uncle, good at interrupting it in opportune times, draining the life out of anyone it came into contact with in a generally annoying presence. It was Caed who gave the rapier its nickname, Mosquito, and used it regularly to court duels. I love that. The weapon passed to Edwin's grandson in the Dyrwood upon her death. A Thane of Quinsrun, he was lost during a Glenfathan raid. Mosquito was lost with him, as he had no descendants and none of the Grundmeths of... Why did they change the name? I think that's a... I wonder if... So up here it was Grundmef, which I believe is pronounced Mave, Grundmave. And down here, it's Meth. So I wonder if that was just like over time it changed to that, or if that's a typo. Interesting. Mosquito was lost with him, as he had no descendants and none of the Grundmeths of Edir had a claim on the rapier. It has circulated among anonymous Glenfathan and Dyrwooden owners ever since. Here's Retetzi's Thorn. Unique spear. The sight of Retetzi on the battlefield is something no combatant ever forgot. Stocky and short, even by Orland standards, Retetzi insisted on using a spear in lieu of any other weapon offered him. To the frequent shock of his comrades, Retetzi proved an unstoppable force on the battlefield. No matter how overwhelming the odds, Retetzi could take down opponents with almost comical ease, leaping great heights to bring his spear down upon his foes with crushing force. Whenever it seemed that Retetzi might at last meet his end, the fearless Orlan would find a second wind and fight with renewed conviction. Yeah, plus 10% accuracy when below 50% endurance and plus 20% damage. So a lot of these unique items I'm realizing that we read it talks about their owners, and the weapons have like traits of their owners. Now, what is this indicative of then? Does this mean that a weapon that is magically imbued, people don't know that it's magically imbued, and so assume that the owner of the weapon is all of these things that the weapon is allowing them to be? Or does use by people who have these abilities somehow inhabit the weapon itself? That would kind of make sense. Like, I wonder if there's like a little bit of soul energy that imbues in the weapons. That's really interesting. I would love to look that up and see it. And if you listening to this, if you get this far, I know this is like episode 34, but if you are ever listening to this and you have an answer to this question, I would love to hear it, because I just thought about that as I was reading these things, and it seems like kind of a chicken and egg situation, but it's also very interesting to me. It seems to me like bits of soul energy actually seep into some of these weapons and take on some of the characteristics of their owner, which is really cool. Okay, moving on. Grudgekeeper. Unique rod. One of the many Orland slaves freed by the 10 Years' Treaties, Moswin Kos swore vengeance against those who had wronged her and her people, gathering a small group of fellow freed Orlands, to perform night raids on known slavers. She would go on to join the Grey's forces in putting down the Cooper's rebellion, if in unofficial capacity, and it was at this point that she acquired an ornately carved rod from the home of a wealthy slave owner. Every time Cass brought down a foe, she would scratch a notch into the rod she wielded. By the time she lost possession of it, the rod bore a crisscross pattern along its length that many assumed was part of its original design. The Hours of St. Rumbalt. Unique greatsword. St. Rumbalt was among the first of the Aethasian pilgrims to take up the Emperor's offer of resettlement in the distant territory of Red Saris. A dedicated priest of the Shining God, Rumbalt was regarded as a leader in his community, known both for his unwavering dedication to his congregation and his stern vigilance against lapses in doctrine. What survives of his sermons reflects his duality, for he emphasized the redemptive power of the faith, even as he warned against the dire punishments awaiting those who rejected Aethos's beneficence. The colonization efforts brought Aethasian settlers into direct conflict with the native Orland populations, and Rumbalt was among those credited with routing several brutal attacks upon the settlement. Ultimately, however, Rumbalt was mortally wounded during a violent raid. Witnesses claimed that upon the moment of his death, Rumbalt's body was suffused by an overwhelming burst of light, knocking the remaining Orland warriors flat or else scattering them back into the forest. Accounts arose of Rumbalt's final hours, describing the great miracles which were observed to have occurred during the day preceding his death. Aethys, it was said, had informed Rumbalt of his fate, and the priest accepted this gladly and without fear, for he knew that death was only the first step in rebirth. He subsequently marked each of his final 27 hours with a miraculous act, such that his congregation would know the gift of Aethys had bestowed upon him, and continue Rumbalt's work in his stead. Rather than staunch the flow of Aethasian settlers, Rumbalt's death only encouraged more pilgrims to venture across the sea, eager to set their eyes upon the final resting place of Aethys's favored servant. The Hours of St. Rumbalt was forged in dedication to this patron saint of the resettlement, and his blade is inscribed with markings counting the 27 hours before Rumbalt's passing. In such manner with the blade imbued upon with the saint's power. It was said that a man might kneel before the sword and know with precision the moments of his death. This one is really interesting. So it says 27 hours before Rumbalt's death. The days in Aora are 27 hours long. So that is a full day. Yeah, and there's a lot going on here. It makes sense that we would start seeing Red Saren weapons here. This area, I believe, is closer to Red Saris. And this is he's an Aethasian pilgrim, and it says the Emperor's offer. I'm going to guess maybe it's the Emperor of Old Valia, because I believe if it was from the Edir Empire, then it would have been a Fairkening. But yeah, when his village was attacked, it seems like he used this sword to defend it, and even in death, it kind of like knocked down the Orland warriors that were attacking the village. Then finally, we have Tallgrass, which is a unique pike. A group of Adiran pikemen were so disciplined in battle that they garnered the attention of the Fairkening himself. He made them members of his personal retinue and ordered special weapons fashioned for them. They marched at the head of the procession, their movement perfectly synchronized and their pikes swaying like blades of grass in the wind. The pikemen became a public favorite during royal festivals and parades, and both they and their weapons earned the nickname Tall Grass. Okay, that's all of the unique stuff that Winfrith has here. And we got a new amulet for... Oh no, we didn't actually buy it yet. Do we have anything to sell? No, okay, didn't think so. Let's not forget to equip that. Oh, where did it go in stash? Here it is, Voice of the Mountaintop. Here is the Grieving Mother. This woman looks briefly through you as if she doesn't know you're there. The Grieving Mother. This middle-aged peasant woman is dressed in a brown leather cloth draped down to her knees. Her hands are working at separate stringy, colorless vegetables in a pile before her, stripping the heads off the long fibrous stems with a paring knife. She discards the stems one by one, placing the heads of the vegetables into a small cradle-like basket in front of her. She doesn't greet you as you approach. You're not sure she even knows you're there. Excuse me? The woman doesn't respond. She keeps stripping the heads from the vegetables with a steady rhythm. She may be deaf. There's no indication she heard you. Study the woman. At first glance, she seems nothing more than a middle-aged woman, unremarkable, maybe less stern than most, who seems more focused on the weaving in her lap than in her surroundings. Yet you suddenly notice she's not stripping the vegetables before her any longer. She's weaving, and the vegetable pots are now missing. She still pays you no mind, her brown locks torn and sagged from lack of washing, like many of the townsfolk you've seen. There is a strange blur to her. Even the motions of her hands seem to be playing with threads that lack color and a shape that lacks interest. It may be that she is half-minded or deaf, but something feels wrong. As you watch, her knitting takes an odd cadence, and you have a terrible suspicion that something lurks beneath what your eyes are showing you. Focus on the woman. Her brown hair is long, almost impossibly to the length of her hands. As you follow the streams of her locks downwards, the hairs become long and black, splitting off into threads of black and silver and wrapping around her hands. She is forming a soul cradle with the threads, braiding a net in front of you, each finger long and sharp like a series of knitted needles, almost hypnotic. The silver and black strands of her hair weave together, with silver predominating as a highlight, the black shadowing it. And suddenly you are calm. You are on a plateau, almost the height of a tower, several stories high. The plateau is like a table lying beneath a clear sky, and beneath the plateau, surrounding it in all directions, a forest, hazy with mist, although whether it is actual mist or distance or recollection. Resting in the curve of a natural arch above you is a great copper bell, half again the size of a man, hanging at attention, as if looking down on you in the event unfolding before you. The plateau has soaked in the sun, and the rock beneath you is rough and warm. The sky forms a cradle around you. You feel different, not disembodied, but you feel your body. Your physical contours have changed along with the surroundings. And you hear a soft series of chimes, like wind chimes. At the sound, the scene gains color and texture, as if the sound is beckoning you gently forth, filling your senses and thoughts like mist roiling softly into a sealed chamber. And focus on the chimes. The chime coaxes you deeper into the memory, and you're certain it's a memory, a warm one. You are on the stone of a plateau, your knees on the warm texture of the ground, silver, white, shimmering like Adra? The plateau is formed of it, glistening in the sun. You can feel the heat on your skin, your wrists, and your hands. Your hands are in motion. Weaving, not thread, but gathering tenderly, moving along the first movements of Bareth's wheel. Your hands are wet. Your hands are upon the flesh of a newborn child, and you can feel the crowning of a tiny head turning in your grip. Its head slick, wet from the womb. Wonder if they're like weaving soul energy. The hands you're wearing, inhabiting, have done this many times, and they are practiced and confident. You can feel distant pains in your own head as the head emerges. A stream of fluid from the womb helping the newborn slide forth, and a woman's labored breathing, crying out. Focus on the child, the movement of your hands. As your hands move, you hear the sound of chimes, clear, cutting through the haze of memory. You cannot see where they are coming from, but they are close, and they are meant as comfort. Of that you are certain. Draw the child forth. And coaxed by your hands, every movement causing the chimes to sound again. Almost eagerly the child comes forth, and as it does, your hands are in motion, weaving, moving along the length of a soft, wet rope. No, an umbilical cord from the legs of a naked woman before you. You are holding a small child, still wet from the womb, before you. The child cries out, Its cry is full of life, full of soul, the ringing of chimes echoing in its thoughts, filling it with its welcome. The soul is blurred at the edges, as if you are viewing a soul from within a soul. But it is there. It is alive. The woman before you is weeping, and at her first cry, her hands reach out for it. Surrender the child. You surrender the child to her, something you have done many times before. And as your hands move, the chimes echo the movement, and you realize the chimes are hanging from cords on your wrists, and where once they echoed in the memory, they are now echoing in the child's mind as well. The chimes are intended to welcome the child, to be its first, gentle greeting into the world, a soothing sound guided by the tender motions of your wrists. You are helping to weave its thoughts, its perceptions, and the experience. The experience. The woman laughs with a ragged joy, laughing from a parched throat. Her emotions seem soothed, but the physical demands of labor have left her exhausted. But the child is here. The child is safe, and all atop the plateau is peaceful, calm, distance, flattening out as the memory persists. I'm going to slowly pull back, retreat from the memory. With effort, the scene bleeds of color, and your mind becomes your own again. There is no pull, no anchor, yet the sound of the chimes remains. As they existed in the memory, they sound here as well, and they are hanging from woven braids on the wrists of the woman before you. Even as your head is spinning from the touch of her mind, the sound of the chimes on her wrists is sharp and clear, as if coaxing you back to the real world. The woman still sits before you, but she is nothing like what you first saw. She is wearing black shredded garments that drape over her form like streamers. Her hair is streaks of black and run through with silver. Her age is almost impossible to tell. She simply feels old, like a crumbled watchtower. As she lifts her head to face you, you see that her hair is draped across the front of her face, like a veil. What you first saw of her was a mental glamour of some sort, unconscious, and you realize what you see is not what the world sees, and you are perhaps the first to see her true self. Still, you don't sense a threat in the realization. If anything, you feel a sense of relief from the figure. You can hear her thoughts, and she is glad at last to be seen. What was that?
I am seen, but the eyes of others do not remember. You were the first to see me as I am, the call stripped aside.
There is a light touch on your mind, a caress, and her left hand mirrors the motion of the touch, reaching up to the air between you. You hear the chime on her wrist sound softly. Her hand moves as if pantomiming, resting on your cheek at a distance, and she speaks softly and slowly.
Your memories. A cadence of wheels on a caravan track. Fever. Questions by running water. Violence in a night's campfire. Arrows in the dark. And fleeing. Falling rock and cracking stone. And a storm. The storm.
Is she reading our memories?
The storm that brushed you. Did its screaming wake you from your mind's cradle? Your memory of it is painful. Its cry is difficult to ignore. It's like a child. Many children crying out.
So she's talking about the Beowicks at the beginning of the game. I encountered a Beowick, yes, and it did something to me. Her hand withdraws shyly, the chime sounding softly once again. The woman stands uncertainly, as if she has been sitting for some time, or is too weak to bear her own weight. You notice her cheekbones are tight, her face gaunt, yet while her stance is weak, she seems determined to stand before you.
You are able to see me.
It is almost a question. You suddenly realize she doesn't seem to know what you saw when you looked at her, the image on the plateau. Yet the image was so clear, so sharp, you're surprised she didn't feel you there.
To see me is a rare gift. A watcher's gift.
And she is also a cipher. I feel like a pathway between our minds, but strange. Gentle.
So many questions, thoughts, whirling like storm winds. That storm still roars through you, deep beneath your thoughts, yet muted and secret, like an underground river. I cannot tell if it is carving new channels or eroding what keeps your true strength buried. The fact that you could hear it at all, survive it, is something few have ever done. Your power will grow stronger with each soul you touch, as it allowed you to reach out to mine.
She did know. There is a silence, and although it seems to last for but a heartbeat, in your thoughts it stretches out between the two of you like a pull between your minds. You blink, take a breath, and then you realize she wants you to ask a question, yet can't form the words, as if assembling them is painful, or there simply are not enough pieces. Assemble the thought. Do you wish to travel with me? You feel a wave of fear gusted with the strength of relief, although oddly her expression does not change. The fear dissipates, and you feel strength and certainty, as if the plateau from her memory lies beneath you, and the calm sky looks down upon you. Oh, so there she is. So I knew that we would run into her here. Grieving Mother is... I wish we could take her with us. At first, when I first ran into her, I didn't like her at all. I didn't like that kind of like mystery that seemed like it wasn't really for a reason. But as I traveled with her over time, I grew to really like her a lot, and she is possibly one of my favorite companions. I also, as I said, love Sagani, and I really like Kana as well. But the Grieving Mother kind of surprised me. And I don't want another cipher in the party, so I'm not going to actually take her with us, but I do want to say that she is, I think she's a great character. And it seemed like what we saw there was her kind of like helping to give birth to another person, which is why she would be called the Grieving Mother. Do we have? I don't think we have a quest for her yet, though. What's this place? This is Hindina's Apothecary. Actually, the apothecary, I think, was outside. Yeah. A ledger lies open on the desk. It lists purchase and sale amounts for various alchemical ingredients and concoctions. Green.
See now what the flame has shown us?
Potion of major endurance and silver louche. But it's stealing, yeah. And ripple sponge. Yeah, everywhere in this town seems like there's drugs. Here is the alchemist.
Hello.
A young woman leans against a wagon. One arm and one side of her face are covered in bandages with raw, rippled flesh showing underneath. A minty, tangy scent wafts from her dressing. She smiles painfully. This is Hindina. Just ventured into town. I'm about dry out of my stocks, but you're welcome to have a look-see. Why are your stocks limited? It's the damn roads. Can't reach none of my suppliers, so I'm stuck with whatever I can scrounge up in the wood. Deercap, reed, and the like. That's well and good, but most potions require something stronger too. Troll skin, vessel bone, what have you. And then there's the really rare ingredients. Things you'd never be able to afford, let alone find on your own. What did you find? Hindina winces as the rest of her story comes tumbling out of her. I've been keeping an eye on a drake's nest east of town at Dyrford Crossing. The beast stayed just long enough to lay a clutch and moved on. Thank the Sky Mother it wasn't a full-grown dragon. She looks at the bandaged arms and grimaces. Fresh eggs are much more useful than the ones that get passed between merchants or left in nests for weeks or more. And that clutch looked to be at its peak. Thought I'd see about getting an egg, but I didn't realize so many of them had already hatched, or that young worms were so territorial. Try to get an egg for you. She keeps her gaze steady, but you see hope kindling in her eyes and twitching at the corners of her mouth. I sure hope you're not leading me on. I don't think I could stand getting burned again. She bites her lip. If you really mean to go after it, I'd certainly pay you. Just remember, big as they are, dragon eggs are fragile. There's a lot more I can do with the whole one.
Good day to you.
How did you get burned? By the flame? How bad does it look? Just say it. I know you'll tell me straight. It looks like it hurts. She laughed ruefully. That's a mighty soft way of putting it. She sighs. Told you about my run-in with the worms. I reckon you put the rest together already. What's wrong with the roads? A noise of disgust rattles from my throat. Brigands, looters, you name it. The gods may be hollowing out our babies, but it's grown folk that's rubbing out the rest of us. People are scrambling to Defiance Bay because they hear there's healthy births there, and all those refugees and abandoned homes attract desperate sorts like flies on dog shit. Show me your wares. Sure thing. Some drugs. Some Zorp tongues. Different crafting ingredients there. Now I have a quest to get a dragon egg from Dyrford Crossing. Hendina's Apothecary.
That's fragrant.
Tyrgo's Curriery. That meat? Older antelope horn. Their speed and alertness makes antelope challenging game for even experienced hunters, and their hides are valued for both decorative and practical purposes. Hides provide the leather used to create durable armor, while the spiraling horns of the oldest specimens are among the most prized of hunting trophies. Alright, let's have I been to the mill? I think I have been. There's Dyrford Crossing. Okay, so maybe that's where I have to go first. Actually, let's go to the Curriery first. Can't find it anywhere. It's like we interrupted something. We'll talk about this later. Get back to the dyes. We'll take care of our customer. So we have some dyes here. Dyes fill the wooden bots. They smell of dung and plant matter. Okay, let's speak to Trigel.
Greetings.
A sturdy, broad-shouldered man wipes his hands on his slacks. He reeks of the same foul compound wafting from the bots, and his arms are stained with dye. You can purchase some leather. Rumbold mentioned something about an ogre? Oh, that's why I know this name. He's hardly talked about anything else since those pigs of his went missing. The whole town's been worried about that monster. People are starting to see shapes in their windows at night, hearing its growl and the snoring or their mates. It would put a lot of minds at ease if someone got rid of it. He scrapes a red pigment under his fingernails. I sometimes venture into the wilderness, collecting ingredients for my dyes, mind you. I've seen tracks east of here, near the river. That couldn't have been anything else. He wipes a splotch of dye from his elbow with his shirt tail. Something else you need? What's in the collapsed tower? It's collapsed. Nothing. He rolls his eyes and shrugs. A few hides on stretching racks and a tallow stench Dengler is always grumbling about. The rest of the keep's dust, just like the fool Lady Thanu who tried to hold it. There's a bard at the inn who'll tell you the whole blazing story if you want to hear it. Show me what you have for sale. Daggers, an exceptional dagger, and exceptional leather armor. A girdle of mortal protection, and a trollhide belt. Trigel told me the ogre most likely resides near the Bale River, east of Dyrford Village. So that must be the Dyrford, I forget what it's called. Dyrford Woods or something. I'm not one for chit-chat, Elf. Speak to Trigel if you got questions.
What do you suppose that bally thing is?
We got a courier's key, a key stained by the dye in which you found it. Take that. Probably won't like it if I unlock that right in front of him. Plus, we have a bunch of the village left to explore, so let's not go in there just yet. She's been missing for days. People can't keep stonewalling us. So yeah, they're talking about the elf. I forget her name exactly. Dracogan Inn. Okay, so I think since we just got into this inn here, I think now is probably a good time to start, because I feel like there's some, when we talk to the father of this person, or is it the uncle? Maybe it was the uncle of this person who's missing. It might take a little while, and we're getting close to an hour, so I think now would be a good time to stop. But thank you for joining me, as always. We finally made it to Dyrford Village, and there's a lot here. We recruited the Grieving Mother, and we've opened the path at least to Cleobon Rillag, or at least we see it on the map. We can't actually go there yet, but we need to go there for Adair, and we need to go there for story purposes as well. So hopefully you join me again in session 35 for when we do some of those things. Let me know what you think. Let me know of any questions you have, anything I got wrong, those kinds of things, and I will hopefully see you then in session 35. Thanks again so much for watching, and we'll see you then. Bye.